So welcome to today's Business Spotlight, and today our guest is Ronan McGrath from McGrath Quantity Surveyors, specializing in residential and commercial projects, not just here, but also in the UK. Ronan, you're very welcome. Good morning to you.
Thanks very much, Tom. Great to be here.
So tell our audience here today, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
So we're quantity surveyors. We've been operating in the residential and commercial market, but very much residential, a lot of housing estates, apartment blocks, investment properties, and one-off builds for the last 11 years, believe it or not. And and about 2 years ago, we launched in the UK. So we have a UK office as well. We've offices in Ireland, in Dublin, and in Wexford. 2 years ago, we launched another office in London as well. So something totally new. Again, it's residential, but it's something totally new to us. How they go about it. They build apartments in your back pocket if they could get away with it over there. They wouldn't waste a scrap of land. So it's very interesting. And to see that kind of a huge economy. 10 million people in one city. There's only 5 million in Ireland. So very interesting.
And tell me, just to the uninitiated here, do you get involved pre-planning or after planning?
Yeah, so we can be involved anywhere from pre-planning. So a lot of architects will come to us for pre-planning when they're with, it could start off with a homeowner, just wanting to say, look, I've designed this dream house of mine. Do I have the money for it? And then a lot of pre-planning will be if someone has, that might be pre-planning or it might be pre-purchase when someone has a building or they might have a site and they say, look, will this make me money? Does it float or doesn't it? And a lot of the time we have to give people the bad news that, look, this doesn't float. We're worse than dentists in terms of being unpopular at the moment. A lot of things aren't viable, and they haven't been for a few years. So the earlier people can get us in, the better, the more informed that they are, and knowledge is power, Tom.
So as a matter of interest, your ideal customer obviously would be the big guns, the guys doing larger developments, it could be commercially or residential. But where would your entry point be as regards to an ideal customer? From what entry point would you be interested in talking to people?
Yeah, so our customers range from architecture practices to, we could have a one-off customer ringing up. We get a lot of contractors, a lot of builders, a lot of subcontractors come to us for a bit of guidance and when they're help tendering. A lot of property investors who are, maybe doing a couple of apartments above the shop, adding another, buying a unit and adding another, they're buying a corner site and they're adding another 1 or 2 units to it. And then we get a lot of developers who are probably active on 2 or 3 sites. There wouldn't be your big, your big PLCs. They'd be family-run developers, and they'd come to us a lot. So I think that's kind of mostly who we have on the books at the minute. And over in London, we seem to have found our niche with property investment funds. So a lot of that, like the money of the world gets invested in London, and there's firms from all over the world. They invest and they buy buildings, buy sites, and they need to build them out. And they need some guidance on that. They need some cost information, and they need that to be managed. So all the way from a homeowner right up to international funds is who we help.
Okay, so quite a wide spectrum there. So tell us, to mention the awful C word, COVID came along and we got to 3 years. Were there any changes that you were forced to make during that period and how you developed your business?
Yeah, I think around that time we'd happened to be engaged in the process around ISO 9001. So when we were doing that, I think that coincided with COVID, and that was all about looking at our business and our practices and our procedures, mainly procedures. And I think that was a huge part of what we had to do was to look at our procedures and to look at who our customers were. We rebranded the company as well, we just to go to see, we were looking at how we were talking to our customers, how we were engaging with them, and we did customer satisfaction surveys, and we scored quite high. And we got a 97% satisfaction rate, and that was great. We were delighted with that. But we still can improve. It was all the idea about Kaizen, and Kaizen is Japanese. It comes from Toyota, and it's all about, they made the best car in the world in the 1980s, and they've done nothing but improve it ever since. So that was where we were trying to go. Continuous improvement is brought up every week, and that was kind of what we had to do. You know, apart from the other things of you know, we had to be flexible in terms of people working from home, and we had to, you know, we had to do a lot of things like that. You know,
but presumably in your business, you have to go physically visit the site. I mean, you can do so much over like Zoom or Teams, but a majority of your work will be actually going to the site. And
yeah, we go to the site, yeah. And again, our procedures that spurred us on to change the procedures around that then as well. So instead of just rocking up to a site and going, well, what's happening here? You know, we would send something in advance. You know, we'd send a bit of communication in advance. The people on the site would have to send that communication back to us. We'd bring that to us, maybe a checklist or something like that, you know, to make the whole process go faster. So we're less. It was great when you can rock up to a site and you can have a chat to Billy and Jack on the site and get a cup of tea and walk around and they can show you this, that, and the other. But when you actually can't do that, you have to think, and it makes you more innovative. And I found we did that. So you know, whereas we were probably spending X amount of time on a site visit, we're getting that done a lot quicker now. And you know, we've got a much better paper trail, and we've got, you know, a lot better communication. And I think communication and procedure are the two buzzwords that we had to look at internally here, and how we brought that in to our clients then. So sometimes we had to manage inwards, sometimes we had to manage outwards, and we had to bring these procedures to our clients and look, this is how we do things. This is the procedure of us going to a site to do a site visit. This is the procedure of how we manage when there's a change in cost or a variation, kind of change management. This is how we do this.
Yeah, people like to know. People like to know what the journey is like, and so if you can explain to them what the journey is and show them where the value is, then they're more likely to kind of say, "Okay, Ronan, we want you on our team." Because sure, I'll drop out and have a look. Yeah, you know, you have to explain to them what the business model is, because a lot of people actually don't really understand.
No, and that's it. And when they see that there's a procedure in place and they say, "Look, this is how we handle this," even if it's different from what they've been used to doing, they're still very happy with it, and they just feel very comfortable that this is in good hands, that these people know what they're doing, these people have a procedure. You know, it just makes them very, very comfortable. And I think that's a huge part of how you engage and how you communicate with your customers.
Yeah, well, I presume the relationship for you is pretty much top of the list. You know, you got to have the relationship with your customers, like most businesses, but the relationship in your case would be very important.
Oh, but no doubt. But you know, the construction industry, Tom, is still a people business. You know, it's all about people, and you know, there's no way, like, the robots haven't come and taken over just quite yet. Okay, so there's no way you can do construction without people, without communicating with people, without getting people to work, without getting people to engage in these procedures. You know, you still need people. So that's why it's so important, the communication, and your only way to help improve that is communication and procedure. Those are your two best tools to go out there and to do that. And we've worked on that religiously. And I think I said it every week. Every week we talk about continuous improvement and Kaizen actions. Every week. That's
very good advice to all businesses. So tell me, Ronan, what would be the biggest learning you got since you became a business owner? And you're in business quite a while yourself now.
Oh God, 11 years of it at this stage. So many. I could write a book, but then I'd be doing your job, so I don't know. I suppose there's a couple of things, and one would be to listen twice as much as I speak, because I think a lot of the problems I ever had, or a lot of the things that went wrong on me, when I look back at it, I remember going, "Oh, that guy warned me about that. Somebody told me about this, and I didn't. I heard them at the time, but I didn't listen." So there was a lot of that the signs are there, and success leaves clues. So you know, I'm not doing something that no one else has done before. I'm not I'm not, you know, inventing the iPhone, or I'm not building splitting the atom or anything like that. There's plenty of people who've done what I'm doing, and you know, to look at them and to take advice off them and to listen to advice from the right people and from people, knowledgeable people. That's very important, is to get the advice and to hear people that have done it all before. That's very important. And I think, as much as I thought I was doing that, I probably needed to do it a little bit more. I did notice one thing, that I got to a stage where I had to totally change my outlook on how to run business, because I felt I was always open-minded. And I said, I'm an open-minded, I'm a forward-thinking guy, I'm an open-minded guy, and I was very proud of how open-minded I was. But what I was open-minded to new ways of thinking, but closed-minded to the old ways of thinking. So I was actually as closed-minded as anybody in terms of business, in terms of business practices. And there is certain, as open-minded as you want to be, there are certain things and certain rules of business that are just set in stone, that cannot be moved, that are absolute, dug into the ground. And no matter what you want to do, you can't change that. You can't change people. You can't change how the business operates. You can't change people's expectations. So I think that was probably the one thing that that I would certainly say is that listen, the information is out there, the success leaves clues, and that being open-minded. Yeah, you have to be open-minded to everything. You can't just be open-minded to certain things, because then you're as closed-minded as anyone.
I'd have to agree with that. And you're saying what you found out about yourself. I found out that I was stubborn. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And that was a big learning for me. You got to change. The change was good. So tell me, what is the future? How would you see the next 5 to 10 years in your industry?
I think you can't talk about the building industry without talking about the housing crisis. I mean, it's huge. It's a problem of our own making, unfortunately. Policy in our country has done this. There's no point in me talking about planning, and there's no point in talking about land registry and all this kind of thing. It's so well talked about, but these are problems of our own making. We did this to ourselves, and we have to dig ourselves out of it. It's no mystery what the solutions are. Government have been given the solutions for a long time from the industry. So, it's not a mystery. Irish builders are sought after in New York, in London, everywhere. Irish builders are sought after. So we're well able to build. So it's not that, you know what I mean? We need to be let build. So I think that's the first thing is over the next 5 years, we need to get ourselves into a position where we can actually help ourselves and we can actually solve these problems that are going on. We've got problems everywhere you look, in terms of people entering the industry. The average age of labor is shot up into like 30s or 40s is the average age of labor in the industry. And that's going to be a major problem soon enough. But I think where the industry is going is a couple of places. I think we're going to see a lot more offsite construction. So, we can see that there's a big trend that lads who would have been carpenters or would have been plumbers or would have been painters on site, a lot of those lads have taken jobs in factories because they not have to drive from Wexford or Cavan or Donegal to Dublin for work. They're not out in the rain. They're not eating their lunch on the wheel arch of the van. They're in a canteen. They're in a comfortable environment. They're getting paid. They don't need to have tools. They don't need to have anything like that. And it's a lot nicer environment. So I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot more factory-based work going on. Again, you can't completely do that. There's no way of doing it, but that'll see a huge increase. That'll see a huge increase in factory-based work taking place and prefabricated work taking place in the industry. That's kind of the first thing. And I would say, there needs to really be a change of mind on apprenticeships. I see a lot of people with apprenticeships, and I think the qualification for apprenticeships is like a level 5 or a level 6 qualification, whereas a degree is a level 8. And I just don't buy that there's that much of a difference between a degree and an apprenticeship. Somebody who's got 4 years practical working experience and a qualification in what they do, and it's 2 or 3 steps off a degree. I'm not buying that. I think that needs to be higher up. I think the qualification for an apprenticeship needs to be a lot higher, and there needs to be pathways for people who are doing physical labor to actually join the management side. Later on in years when they've 20, 30 years experience on the ground.
Can I just ask you then, in your view, then, whilst we're on this topic, there's a lot of the public view will say, oh, well, the bloody builders, they're making so much money, it's unbelievable. We're paying millions for our houses, and every little job we want sure costs us a couple of grand. You get nothing for 20 quid anymore. But the world has changed, so we have to adapt in a different way. So new technology that's coming out, as you said, I'm really interested myself in this kind of houses that be made in factories, like a car. You get an estate, they're all pretty much the same. how could you make it more efficiently and then just deliver it? It's a whole new process, which you talked earlier on, whole new procedure. But I think there is, if we embrace the technology, that there is a way that we can make it affordable by making it more efficient and also better lives for people that are not having to work out in the rain. I like this idea personally. Now, whether it's suitable for all projects, no, I get that it's not. But there's a percentage of it, I think, that change could actually be good for us.
No, I think there is. I think there's, the quarter of all houses, a third of all houses could be factory built over the next decade. I mean, that can happen. Different forms of construction that require less manpower on site, definitely. But like, even if you say blocks, you have to have a guy in the block factory making the blocks. You have to have somebody to deliver the blocks, and then you've got somebody to lay the blocks, then you've got somebody to do the mortar. There's a lot in it. There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. So it's just like the factory, but just more spread out. So I mean, definitely on that. On the subject of developers making money and the cost of houses and stuff like that, I have a real bugbear with how the media and how politicians kind of treat the construction industry and use the construction industry as I suppose the whipping boys and as somewhat to blame for this crisis. That's very far from the truth. There's been a lot of failed policies. There's been a lot of just lack of listening and a lack of understanding. The solutions been given to the government and have not been taken. And I had a little bit of a row on the radio one day recently on a national broadcaster about this matter, and it was about the concrete levy. And I was just saying, the concrete levy. The facts are, I'm not for the. I have customers who are homeowners and I have customers who are developers. So I'm in the middle, okay? I'm a referee. And I'm just telling you, putting on a concrete levy is going to add to the price of the house. Yeah. And the person that's going to pay for that is the homeowner. Simple as that, okay? If you up the regulations, that's great. The regulations are great, and upping regulations for Kyoto protocols and all is fantastic. It's wonderful, right? But basically what you're doing is you're saying that everybody has to have it's the equivalent in the car industry. You're saying, look, everybody has to have a car, but it has to be a Mercedes. Yeah. And that's not the way it works. So every single time, and you can look it up. You can look at this up on technical guidance documents over the last 10 years. The amount of changes that have come along. Every single one of those changes cost money. So every single time a new technical guidance document is issued, that's another 500, 1,000, $5,000 a unit. That's going on to the cost, and that's not the industry. That's not coming from the industry. New fire regulations are out recently for apartments. That's another couple of grand an apartment. So all these things are great, but that's where a lot of the costs are coming from. So I mean, there needs to be a reasonable conversation about that, and it can't just be demonizing people for doing their jobs. Nobody asks how much pharmaceutical companies are making when they're making life-saving medication. Nobody's asking about how much anybody is making, or a car industry is making. I just don't understand why there's such a conversation about profit and margin. And for the record, margin's never been lower in the construction industry. If you want to have the margin conversation, it's never been lower. It's never been higher. We've seen nothing but even in a boom time in the construction, we've seen nothing but companies go broke over the last 2 years, partly because of COVID and partly because of low margins and poor paying structures.
So there's a long way to go before we can affect this change to make it work. But I think there's a lot of good points that you've made out there. One being making some houses in the factories, but also having a look at the procedures that we're currently doing and what makes sense. But we do need to have a bit of common sense to come out of this before we move on. Ronan, I could talk to you about this all day. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much indeed for taking part in this today. Just the last thing I want to do, if somebody wanted to have a chat with you about a project they had coming up, be it residential or a commercial, and they just wanted to have a non-obligatory contact, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, best way to contact us is by email or get us on the phone. Our website is mccqs.ie, and all our contact details are there. And look, a lot of people who have a project, they'll send it in to us, they'll arrange a call, and we'll do a call like this, or we'll go visit the site, and we'll talk to them about the project. Again, not all that glitters, as I say to people, not all that glitters is gold. So people might have a project and they might have great ideas on it, but it might not just work. The numbers have to make sense. and you might not like it, or it might need to be a change, or the earlier the better.
You
can
tell them,
engage,
you give them the
tackle
best
these
advice
numbers.
before they waste the money.
Yeah, look, sometimes people get advice and it's too late.
Yeah.
Like I've experienced in the past. So the earlier the better you can get that. Is what I'd say. And look, a conversation can cost nothing. It can just be a conversation, and a lot of people make the same mistakes. They come into the building industry thinking it's some other kind of industry. They made their money elsewhere, and they come into the building industry thinking they can affect the same things that they did in other industries, and they couldn't be more wrong.
You can get a bit of a shock. So mccqs.ie. Ronan, thank you so much for your time today. Wishing you every success, and I look forward to chatting to you again. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Tom. All the best.